Why is AI coaching exploding in the marketplace today? What is making it so popular? What's making it so effective, or in some cases, ineffective? What is controversial about it, and why is now the time? Let's start out with talking about what is really happening in the workplace today. There are some macro shifts, such as ever since the COVID 2020 environment, there have been these waves of economic uncertainty and unpredictability caused, of course, by the pandemic and many different things since then, to where now an organization cannot project as effectively into the future with their financial plans, which is causing budget tightening. Other things are also causing budget tightening. And then that is leading to layoffs. And then you match that with the fact that AI truly is helpful enough to replace people in certain roles these days. And so you're having AI in the headlines as driving some of that need to remove jobs. You also have the need to make AI incredibly valuable to your organization. It is just here in droves, and it should automate a lot of things, the rote things, and make people more productive, which of course goes hand in hand with the diminishing shelf life of skills. Back in the 1980s, you could learn a new technical skill and it would serve you in creating new value for your organization for a decade before you needed to learn something new, before it was replaced with a new skill. Today, the shelf life of a skill can be a matter of mere months before it is outdated and there is a new, better, faster, shinier way that we need to be creating new value for our organization. All of this to say, humans need to adapt faster than ever and deal with a constant stage of unpredictability and fast change. We need to be more adaptable and at the same time come up with new innovative solutions faster and more frequently. So what this means is, let's talk about neuroscience here. What this means is you need your prefrontal cortex to come online. This is the part of your brain that can imagine new possibilities, that can fit together different scenarios and create a domino effect of what might happen in the future. This is where you have creativity. This is where you have human connection. This is where you have the ability to invent a better, brighter future. However, what is happening in the headline and in tightening budgets is putting people actually into a place of their limbic brain. This is where we have fear. This is where we have self-protection. This is where, in truly traumatic scenarios, you have fight or flight. But in less traumatic, meetings, you also have fight or flight. Are we going to engage in the situation? Are we going to shut down? Are we thinking that other person from that other department is threatening us and what we need? That is your limbic system on overdrive. And what happens neurologically is that when your limbic system kicks in, it actually gets prioritized higher than your prefrontal cortex, your imaginative place. So I know I'm getting really technical here, but the TLDR of this is when there is this time of massive disruption, people go into self-protection, but what we need is for people to go into imagination, creativity, and the human skills that only humans can do. And this is where AI coaching actually can be of great service. Because what is it that AI can do better than humans? It can crunch immense amounts of data and in seconds find the right insight for the right moment. Whereas what humans can do is think broader across different categories. So for example, to have AI understand what a giraffe is, it has to sift through millions of pictures of giraffes from different perspectives, and now it can understand a giraffe. But if you then start to show it pictures of an elephant, it's a categorically new thing that it needs to be fully retrained on millions of pictures of elephants. Whereas humans, we can start to recognize one thing and apply it to a whole different category, which is where our creativity comes into play. We can create net new, and AI cannot. It can only mimic what it has been trained to understand. Match that with our ability to really understand emotions and dynamics and buying behaviors and psychology. It really takes humans to invent that next product that is going to wow the market, which is critical in our capitalist economy. If you want humans coming together, understanding what it is that's going to wow customers, you also need humans coming together, understanding the very different constraints of different departments. You can, invent something in theory, but can it be truly engineered in production? And then can it be shipped through, the supply chain people? All of that takes you combining people together to do the stuff that is actually hardest for humans. Understand with curiosity divergent and challenging perspectives, give hard feedback, have difficult conversations, think in brand new ways, net new creativity. These are things that AI can support us with in its ability to pull up the right insight and its ability to crunch massive amounts of data and its ability to summarize our meeting notes and its ability to do a ton of other things. It can support those things that only humans can do in incredible ways, but it cannot replace. And in fact, while AI is causing a lot of our fear and a lot of the disruption, it should also be a piece of the puzzle of surfacing what we need to know so that we can be more human, and of automating the tasks that are draining and not really helping us do our best so that we can do our very best work. So I want to reframe this fear. AI should not be replacing humans. It should be removing the noise so that humans can do what we do best. Talking about AI replacing us is actually the wrong conversation for the workplace. The right conversation is talking about what it can enable us to do. And I want to parallel this to what happened in the 1960s. Automation was coming in, and it was going into manufacturing, and it was going into a number of different industries, and it was truly displacing jobs, and it was replacing what people could do. And people were very concerned about what this would mean for the economy. What would it do to the unemployment rate? What would it do to human dignity? What would it do to, our ability to provide for our families and our loved ones and our dreams? And what ended up happening, unemployment actually did not go up. It went down. And there was even talk that, what will the work week become? Will it become 20 hours a week? We won't even need to work that much in the future. I think you all know that is not what happened. As efficiency rose, expectations rose. And I expect the exact same thing to happen today. I'm observing it already happening today with AI. And automation also removed some of those rote tasks, unleashing humans to do more of that creativity, to do more of that interaction that only we can do to create new value for the economy. In the same way, we should be looking to AI to do that today. AI can reduce the cognitive overload that so many people feel at work today through our just immense amount of emails coming at us and different messages we need to keep up on and competing priorities. AI can sift through a lot of that. AI can do a lot of our research for us. It can cut that time down immensely. It can crunch all this data together. It can automate certain workflows. These are the things that it should do to actually unleash us to lean into our unique strengths and our unique abilities that each individual brings differently and uniquely to the team. And when you have this happening, you have a culture that is so much more engaged. You have people who are hopefully a lot less stressed. Like I said, expectations of efficiency can rise, but hopefully this new support that we can get through AI will actually unleash people to do even more of their best work. Because let's talk about what is breaking today inside of organizations. I think the crux of it comes back to something I hear consistently from talent leaders across all organizations. The trend is, if you look at employee engagement surveys, the number one thing that people have not figured out how to solve is managers giving difficult feedback to help their employees grow. I hear this trend all the time, and it comes down to the fact that managers are so overloaded and under-supported. We're expecting them to be able to lead the multiple generations that are in an organization. Today, there are 5 generations in the workplace, and yes, there's always been many generations in the workplace, but 5 is a lot, and consider the fact that your oldest generations, your middle generations, and your youngest generations all grew up in vastly different ways. They approach relationships in vastly different different ways. Sometimes their view of the capital T truth is so different. And sometimes their view of how to be respectful is different, how to be efficient is different, and especially their view of how to engage with technology is very different. Much less, do I even need to say, their communication style is so different. So you have managers managing all of this and somehow struggling to give hard feedback to help their people grow. I don't think it's that hard to figure out why. Plus you have the constraints I mentioned earlier, tightening budgets, more expectations with less resources, and somehow figure out how to automate all the things with AI. There is a lot of pressure we have put on the linchpin of our culture, which is managers. But imagine this. What if every manager had a coach in their pocket that was able to help them understand, hey, this is how this person receives feedback best. Hey, this is how this person does their best work. Hey, these are the strengths. Here's how you can organize your people better. What if we had that for not only every manager, but also all of their direct reports? What if they had that? So some of their challenges that they're struggling with working out on their own and currently going to their manager for, or to their HRBP or to their someone else in HR, what if all of that could be solved by people if they just had access to better understanding of the different dynamics on their team and of the different needs of their different team members? This is what an AI coach can truly provide to an organization that not only relieves the manager, but also equips every single person in the organization to be learning and to be growing, not only individually, but collectively together. Because nobody works in a silo, nobody works on an island. We are all dependent across all the different departments and across our team members to be able to do our very best work every single day. And this is why AI coaching is not about content, it is about context. So a lot of people think that a really good AI coach should do exactly what a human coach does. A human coach is trained to not give you answers, but to ask you open-ended questions to help you find the wisdom and the answer that you already have within yourself, but with an added dose of processing and courage to help you unleash it from within. That is so valuable when a human is doing that with you. But is it really what we should train AI to do? Other people say AI coaching should give you advice because, hey, it can crunch immense amounts of data and surface the right insight at the right time. So it should take in the frameworks of an organization, such as how this organization prioritizes giving feedback. Does it have, the situation behavior impact framework or the SL2, or there's so many different frameworks that organizations train their people on. It should have that inside of it. It should also have core values, other frameworks, leadership competencies, and so that it can be training people to the right behavior that the organization wants everyone to live out. And I would say you actually need a combination of both of those plus high personalization. Because if people are just getting, hey, here's what your organization wants you to do type of advice, what is really in it for them? Even without bad intentions, just consider that all your people are so overwhelmed. So when they're really needing help, they don't need to understand a generic framework. They need to understand how to apply it to their person, to their situation, to their constrained resources. And this is why we strongly believe that the best AI coaching is grounded in behavioral science. Those assessments so many organizations already spend so much money on, such as your DISC, your Enneagram, 16 types, Gallup-Clifton strengths, the list goes on. When AI coaching can be grounded in that, as well as really being able to understand how to ask a good question and when to ask a question versus when to do what only AI does best, which is crunch a ton of data and give you some insight and sometimes even advice. That is what the best AI coaching can do. And another thing about it is it's not just based on the individual. It's not just based on what they tell the system, so it's not having an echo chamber, and it's not also limited in just the understanding of that one person. A truly top-class AI coach needs to understand the full team dynamic. It needs to understand beyond what the one person is saying and what is really happening inside of all the other people, because that is how it can not just reinforce what you want it to say to you, or not just give you advice based off of a very limited view and a very limited understanding of your teammates, but it can truly help you understand the perspective you don't yet have because it's not yet yours. But I'll be honest, most AI coaching tools are answering the wrong problems. When we are just asking open-ended questions with an AI coach, well, feedback is that feels pretty robotic. And it doesn't feel natural. When it's happening with a human who cares about you and who's with you, that is such a different feeling than when it is, especially when it's just in text chat. But even when you're talking to a robot and it's asking you those questions, it just doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel as caring, and it's not as insightful in getting you to go deep yourself. And also, when your AI coach is giving you generic advice or frameworks that are one size fits many but not really individualized to your situation, it can feel like a good to do, a should. You should do this, but it doesn't feel like something you need and something that is truly going to relieve the pain that you are in and help you in the current situation you are facing. And this is why the data that goes into an AI coach and informs how it is responding back to the person is so critical and needs to be so vast. Your AI coach should understand all of the data your organization has on you, your performance reviews, your tenure on the team, your employee engagement scores, your psychology, the projects you're facing. It should understand your teammates, especially, and org hierarchy and power dynamics. When it can understand all of that, as well as your core values, leadership competencies, frameworks, when it can understand all of those things put together, that is when you have an AI coach that is informed well enough to understand you are walking into this meeting, you are more detail-oriented than anyone else here, you are presenting a strategic plan, and your organization strongly has a core value of fast decision-making. What do you need to do? How do you need to adjust your detail orientation to get it high level and strategic enough for people to be informed at the level they need to make a well-informed yet fast decision? An AI coach can know those things, and it can ping you 3 minutes before that meeting with the advice and the insight that you need to be successful. Which brings me to another key point of AI coaches. Many of them you will need to go and log into, and this can be a great source of help when you think about it. But most people aren't thinking about it. So you should really be looking for the AI coaches that are in your Slack, your Microsoft Teams, your calendar, the places where you are already working, where they are in the flow of the work to meet you at your moment of need. That is true learning in the flow of work. And I believe the future of learning in an organization will be a lot more invisible than it is today, because it's not going to be completing a course, checking into a system. It is going to be happening in the flow, in every moment, where people are equipped with the bite-sized piece of information they need to be successful, that they can then act upon. The application happens in the moment of the learning, not outside of the moment of learning. And that is where you get real behavior change and real growth from people to constantly be evolving further into their best self, but also their most effective self for their career and for your organization. And this is the power of AI coaching, making this accessible to not only your executives, who, by the way, have not had that much effective learning in the flow of work, but also to every single employee who has not had access to any amount of coaching. Imagine everyone learning and growing and being served in the flow of work with those pings, with those proactive pushes, with that place where they can just go ask a quick question of, hey, I'm walking into this difficult conversation with Omar. How can I best frame for what he needs to receive information? And then they can role play right there in the flow of work, and they can practice that difficult conversation. And then they can also come back and let it know how the conversation went, so that you can record true behavior change and true growth happening across your entire organization information every single day in these more invisible ways. Isn't that beautiful? The more invisible learning that is going to be happening, there's also going to be more data collected that lets you finally prove behavior change and ROI on your talent investments like never before. So let's talk about, how do you choose the right AI coach for your needs? Of course, you got to really understand your needs. Is what you're wanting for people to be trained on specific situations? For example, there are AI sales coaches out there where you can upload all of your data on, past conversations, past recorded sales calls, and it can role play different sales scenarios with them or customer success scenarios with them, where it is training them and giving them feedback on how to have those conversations. That is one segment of AI coaching that is really popping in big ways today. Or is what you're looking for an AI coach that is going to be there equipping all employees in your organization in growing in their human skills in the things that only humans can do, such as leadership, such as difficult conversations, such as leaning more into their strengths and creativity and all of those things that only humans can do. If that is what you're looking for, that segment is also popping. And I would say you want to look for the things that we've talked about through this video. Is it in the flow of work? What is the data that is informing it? Is it just a couple of frameworks? Is it individualized to understand their calendar? Is it understanding their behavioral profile? Is it trained just on the data of what the employee talks to it about, or does it also understand the full team dynamics? There are plenty of things to suss out when you are looking at what is the data that is informing this AI coach. You also then want to be looking at, where is it accessible? Is it in the flow of work, or is it something your employees need to log into? If it's the latter, I will let you know most people see a less than 50% engagement rate in those tools, even when they're really helpful, because people are busy. And I think we'll start to see a lot more AI coaches are making themselves available in the flow of work. And I think it's a really critical thing to require when you are looking for ways to support your people with AI coaching. Next, you'll need to consider, do you want it to be doing what a human coach can do and asking questions? Do you want it to be giving advice, or do you want a combination of the two? I would say that's a pretty early stage thing for the industry to be figuring out. And so I think the best way for you to figure that out is by looking at engagement rates. What is it that people are really going to and coming back to for more help because it was truly useful to them? Is it just asking questions? Is it just giving advice? Or is it a combination of the two? Lastly, I would highly encourage you to look at how personalized the coaching can get, because we have seen this across different tools. People are really overwhelmed with information. So when the information they're given isn't really obvious how they can apply it and how it understands their current situation, the less likely they are to actually use it, and the less likely they are to return to it. Not because it's not good, but because it requires too much cognitive overload, too much thinking and processing for the learner when they're already overwhelmed with tasks and changes and constraints. And we would argue that part of this personalization is actually it being able to understand the team. So many AI coaches available today only understand what the coachee, what that individual person is telling them. So imagine a scenario where they're really struggling, when it's a young manager struggling to give feedback to an employee. And they're asking, how do I best give feedback to this person? And all that AI coach knows is what it's been told by that person who's giving the hard feedback and the framework or whatever model it is trained on. What it's going to give back to them is so much more limited than if it actually understood the feedback receiver. If it actually understood, how does that person best receive hard information? Do they need it given to them straight, or do they need it given to them with a little more care and a little more personal relationship invested first? Do they need details? Do they need high level? What is the best way for them to receive hard feedback? If your AI coach can understand all of that, that is the most helpful thing for the employee who's getting coached. If you combine all of this, I hope that you see that the right ethical usage of AI should actually make work more human. It should make people feel more seen, less automated. Not only more seen by, the organization that's serving them with an AI coach, but it should lead people to be able to better see each other. An AI coach should be directing us towards richer relationships with each other so that we can bring not only more of our best, but we can bring out the best in the teammates around us. When you have an AI coach that is so deeply context aware, what you get is higher trust, higher connection, higher ability actually to disagree in a healthy way. And that leads to better outcomes for your organization. That leads to better decision making, better problem solving, better relationships, more enjoyable work environment. Imagine if every team in your organization had better connection, had better clarity on the task, had better communication to sift through the challenges, had better understanding of each other, had better connection to the organization, felt truly invested into. That is the power of what AI coaching can bring. It not only is more human, feels more human, it is also more effective, more efficient, more innovative. It leads to the best outcomes for not only individuals, but also for organizations. And when that's happening, the economic impact is also deeply meaningful to our society. This is the hope of what a really good AI coach can bring.